Welcome to the Chaos Sector. We follow up with the Halloween series. Currently, we have the retcon trilogy, presumably to end with Halloween Ends. But, I will give my take on what will unfold briefly. Based on age, I assume that Laurie Strode will die in this film. Myers will finally kill his sister, a target he became obsessed with killing for over 40+ years. Then, Karen will also be killed, as Myers most definitely has no concern for her in the plot. As a result, you have Allison seeking revenge for both her mother and grandmother's deaths. Remember, it was Allison who sought revenge for her father's death in Halloween Kills. Myers faces Allison in the final battle, and Allison kills Myers, getting her revenge. This ending, although the entire trilogy was subpar, it satisfies the audience. Myers kills Laurie Strode, the fans will expect this, and Myers himself is killed by Allison. Killing two birds with one stone, as the casual audience and fans will be happy with the ending. If the storyline does not play out this way, then it will be a lackluster finale to the trilogy. Why? Because generally the audience and fans subconsciously root for Michael Myers instead of Laurie Strode. Myers carries the series, meaning, without the antagonist, there is no Halloween. Laurie Strode, on the other hand, is dispensable. She has a daughter in Karen and a granddaughter in Allison to continue the storyline. Once again, this retcon series would have made more sense 10 years ago, as you could produce more films within that time frame. Yet, when there is an internal conflict that causes inconsistency in the storyline, you have such films being produced. Let me revisit the nostalgic referencing a bit. In Halloween Kills, you had Laurie Strode in the hospital, right? Now, Halloween Kills is the sequel to the 2018 film, right? This would be a nostalgic reference to the 1981 sequel with Laurie in the hospital, but, in Halloween Kills, they are not siblings, right? So, why? Why create that subconscious storyline, instead of just doing it? In fact, it would make more sense if they were siblings, and it was 40+ years later. But if they are siblings, this causes major problems with a backstory, which they erased all films from 1981 to 1995. It's like a storyline that is not sure of what it wants to be. They literally are trying to merge both into one film, thinking it's innovative or something. This random screenwriting is the result of internal conflict. I will definitely break it down. Let's continue. Here, we have the original timeline, from 1978 to 1995. And, we include Halloween 3, as it is also a part of the original timeline. I'll explain that as well. Now we have to start from the 1995 film, because that is the finale of the original Halloween timeline. From there, we go backwards, and follow what was revealed and established in that film, linking it to the original film. Pay close attention, because the previous retcons of H2O and Resurrection, and the current retcon series, were basically produced to conceal the truth. Halloween 1 and 2 are the introduction to Myers. Halloween 3 was considered anthological, but there were hints at a connection to the Myers timeline. Then you have Halloween 4, 5, and 6, being slated the quote, Curse of Thorn timeline. In the finale of the original storyline, the 1995 film established the motive behind Myers' actions. For those who saw the film and know that storyline, think deeper to what was hidden in plain sight. The Curse of Thorn was what Myers was afflicted with at a young age. The antagonist is Dr. Wynn, who explained what, who, why, when, where, and how it all came to be. Some didn't like that storyline, but let's break it down. In this film, we have Dr. Wynn, Dr. Loomis, Tommy Doyle, Jamie Lloyd, Kara Strode, and her son Danny. Tommy has studied Myers for years, to the point of an obsession, intrigued at what drives him to kill. He researches an ancient Celtic cult and their traditions. One child from each tribe is chosen to sacrifice their family for the survival of the entire tribe. This exposition is the reason, the purpose, the motive of Myers throughout the original timeline. Jamie Lloyd was killed early in the film, not before saving her baby, which would be Myers' great-nephew. Of course, there is the producer's cut, which has Myers impregnate his niece, which was a wild twist in the plot. I will explain why Jamie Lloyd was killed off so early in the film. Danielle Harris had several complaints about the script and decided not to play her role as Jamie Lloyd. It was definitely a shock to her in how her character was treated. Don't worry, it will all be revealed. Dr. Loomis finds out that Dr. Wynn was behind Myers' rage for all those years. There were many individuals a part of this cult, as Wynn attempts to recruit Danny, Kara's son, to become the next Myers. And Jamie's baby would be the next child chosen in the ritual in years to come. Tommy, Kara, her son Danny, and Jamie's baby escape the cult, and the final battle with Myers unfolds. Loomis arrives later, after being let go by Wynn. It was his game, as Loomis explained prior. Tommy drugs Myers, beats him down with a pipe, and the film ends with Loomis screaming, with a shot of Myers' mask on the ground. In the producer's cut, Loomis is afflicted with the curse of Thorn, this is why he screams. And Myers walks away into the darkness, wearing the same cowboy attire as Dr. Wynn. In both endings, Myers survives. But the interesting thing about the producer's cut is Myers is no longer afflicted with the curse of Thorn, indicating he is replacing Wynn as the new cult leader, or simply becoming a normal human again. Now let's bring this full circle. The curse of Thorn was introduced in Halloween 4, then became highly prevalent in Halloween 5, and ultimately explained in Halloween 6. But actually, it was subliminally introduced in the earlier films. What's that? How is this? Let's rewind back to the 80s. In Halloween 2, there is the scene in the classroom. Dr. Loomis notices the word Samhain on the chalkboard. The officers assumed it was gibberish, but Loomis tells them it was an ancient Celtic word, meaning the Lord of the Dead. Now keep in mind, this is the original sequel. Since it's the original sequel in 1981, this means the script, or storyline, has references to outside forces involved with Michael Myers. We assume Myers wrote that on the board, but why would a 21-year-old Myers have knowledge of this word? Where did he get this knowledge if he had been locked away for 15 years? Was Myers reading books on ancient Celtic traditions while locked up in Smith's Grove Sanitarium? Well, that's the only way he could gain that knowledge. And since that's not the case, there had to be someone else.
Get him upstairs! Now!
Where's the baby?
He's gone. Who else knew I had the baby?
No one.
No. There had to be someone else. Who knew?
Nobody knew it except me and...
Danny, come to me.
I reiterate, the term Samhain is not a common word, you have to research for such terminology. And there you have it, Myers was not alone, someone helped Myers escape, and who had been guiding Myers throughout his imprisonment. Once again, this is all being revealed subliminally in the 1981 film. It is the storyline within the film as you watch, oblivious to it at the same time in retrospect, as a kid of course. Also, in the 1981 sequel, Loomis is informed by Nurse Chambers about a secret file, which of course reveals that Myers and Laurie were related. Dr. Loomis was not aware of this file, as it was sealed for Laurie's protection. Chambers states, it wasn't fair, they should have let Loomis view everything. Yet, Chambers knew about this file, which begs the question, how did she find this out, before Loomis did? Within the Curse of Thorn plot, Chambers had to know more than Loomis about Myers, right? How did she gain access to that file? Remember, she states it wasn't fair that Loomis didn't know about that file, which indicates Loomis would compromise the objective for the cult. That being, Myers sacrificing his bloodline for the tribe. Chambers was merely a nurse at Smith's Grove Sanitarium, how does she gain access, or find out about this heavily protected file on Michael Myers, before an actual doctor does? And that doctor in Loomis was assigned to treat that very patient in Myers? Here's my theory to why. Chambers was also a part of the Celtic cult, but went rogue and decided to help Loomis by informing him about that secret file. She went against the cult to help protect Laurie Strode by revealing that information. But she did it in a way that seemed coincidental from the audience's perspective. If you examine her mannerisms, she appears very secretive. This character secrecy is of course based on her knowledge of Myers and Laurie being related. Obviously it's not picked up when you watch the film as a kid, teenager, or even an adult. But once you view the 1995 film, then revisit those films, each character is subject to being a part of the cult. Remember, the leader of the cult was in fact, a doctor. And lower-ranking members were, nurses. So it makes sense that Chambers was a part of the cult all along, just like Dr. Wynn had influenced Myers from the beginning. Even in the first film with Loomis, her responses to Loomis's suggestions in dealing with Myers almost seemed combative, like she didn't want to follow those suggestions. Maybe at that point, she was conflicted between listening to Loomis and following orders from Dr. Wynn, who was her cult leader. Chambers knew everything then, but was sworn to secrecy until she decided to inform Loomis about everything. If you think about it, Chambers is a very important character in the storyline because of what she knew about Myers. The only people who knew Myers and Laurie were siblings was the Myers family, the Strode family, the Courts, the Celtic cult, and Chambers who was a part of that cult. Nobody else knew, including Dr. Loomis. In the 1995 film, Nurse Mary helps Jamie Lloyd escape to save her baby. She is then killed by Myers, but she was also a part of the cult. The point? Members of that cult showed the courage to be defiant out of compassion for the innocent lives that are being threatened, especially the young and women. The same way Mary helped Jamie and her baby escape her uncle is the same way Nurse Chambers decides to help Loomis in protecting Laurie from her brother. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's definitely logical within the plot of the series. And we go back one step, to the original film. Loomis is walking with a doctor, and he tells him that Myers must have gotten driving lessons to escape. And guess who this doctor was? You guessed it, Dr. Wynne. Yes, he was in the original film. He had to be with Myers the entire time, and nobody knew he was involved with the Celtic cult until the 1995 finale. Now many believe that the 1995 film attempted to link all the other films to it, to save face. Wynne was a so-called random doctor in the first film, and then they created a handler role of Wynne in the Curse of Thorn timeline to justify the film's storyline. It would have some merit if, and only if, Loomis didn't explain how someone gave Myers driving lessons, and in the sequel, why the term Samhain was written on the chalkboard. This is information that was placed in those earlier films, which means it justifies everything revealed in the 1995 film. So the film is only revealing what was already there, hidden in plain sight. The Curse of Thorn timeline is the original timeline of Halloween. It was the equivalent of so-called Easter eggs in modern films today. Some don't like that plot, of Myers being controlled like a puppet. Understandable, but honestly, I actually like that idea. But it's not entirely 100%, meaning Myers can, and did, show resistance to the cult's influence. We see this in Halloween 5, where he took his mask off for Jamie. This showed that his niece was able to reach him, convincing him to reveal his face to her. And not only that, Myers also shed a tear. This displays the humanity within Myers, and the torment he suffers through while being possessed by evil. In the 1995 film, Myers appears to lash out, killing all the nurses in the operating room. Dr. Wynne looks on, in fear for his life, shocked at what he was witnessing. This indicates that Myers had acted on his own accord, momentarily free from Wynne's control. Although he didn't kill Wynne, it showed that Myers had reached a breaking point. Myers was considered the quote, assassin of the cult, but is not completely controlled by their command. These brief moments show that Myers was also rebelling against the cult. And it makes him more dangerous, due to his frequent independence from them. And even in the finale of the producer's cut, Kara tells him he can stop the cult. So although he was under an ancient cult's control, he did show the ability to make decisions on his own accord. And that makes him more dangerous, because he is choosing, at least sometimes, to kill. So it's basically the same Myers of just being evil without a cult pulling the strings. He chooses to be controlled, which makes him more evil, because of the conscious decision to be, well, evil. Now that we have established a foundation of Myers' actions, we return back to the original film. Myers was not just stalking a random teenage girl in Laurie Strode. Rather, seeking to carry out another ritual killing of a family member. The evidence was there in plain sight, but nobody could pick up on the subtle signs. This is the Chaos Sector, Film Reviews.